suspension message. We're identifying the bug has been submitted. We're looking into it. It's a visual thing. It actually doesn't. You are not suspended for 7,900 days. Community service is there. Just keep playing quick play. It'll get you back into the game. So we want to get rid of it because obviously it's not accurate. However, it's something that doesn't mean what it says. So just push on through, please. Okay, River. So River. This isn't the River we know and love. This is River with a little bit.
I mean, hopefully it's the River you know and love.
Well, no, but like it's updated for Gears 5, right?
Yeah.
Like you made some changes to it.
Yeah.
Like I don't think we need to go through all of River. People know it really well. Do you want to talk about kind of some of the things that we did and why you did them?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a little bit of history on it. Like, we did play like the 1-to-1 Gears 2 River in Gears 5, and obviously it had some problems. Obviously, crossing was a huge problem. There was just way too many lines of sight. The fact that we were cramming sort of 5 players in such a small map into like these sort of like two, like, I was talking a lot earlier about sort of like the concept of 2 lanes and like, it's sort of like forcing fights in a way that's really healthy. But the thing about when you kind of compare River and Nexus, right? Like, the final version of Nexus, you have like the left lane that's sort of like really, really tight, where like the players are just forced into an Asher combat. And the other lane, it's a bit more open. Like you have more options for movement. You can kind of flank people. You can do River. When you think about River, like both lanes are like the left lane on Nexus, where like you're just forced into a straight Asher fight. Like, you can't avoid the enemy here, and you can't avoid the enemy here. So it was very, very chaotic. And because it was so lethal, people were starting to play very passive. Like they would sort of like stay back, they would Lancer. There was a lot of lines of sight in the map that don't exist in the final version. And the goal for the map was that we needed this to play in Gears 5 the way people remember it, which, is,
That's a hard challenge, right?
It was difficult, yeah. Because the way that it played in Gears 2 was, it was close quarters, it was intimate, like it was strategic, it was all those things. And what we were seeing in the first version when we played it in Gears 5 was it was just like a chaotic mess of like Lancers and frustration. And we needed to find a way to bring it more to what people remember the map and love the map for, right? So I'll walk through some of the changes. So very first change that I made was this wall. So this wall came in. So as you know, in the original version of River, this is just low. This is all low cover, all the way to the end. And what that meant was if you're in the sniper tower, you can basically just shoot, and also the back here was also low. You can just have free reign to just shoot over the spawn. And the very first thing we did was we needed to protect the spawn. So these high walls came in at the very minimum, and you can see there's like a bit of like change of like the height there, and that's because like I was trying to make it so that when you run into this door that you couldn't get sniped. I absolutely needed it so that a player coming out of spawn could get into this door safely without getting sniped. So we were able to achieve that with that wall. But then the next problem we ran into was people couldn't move around the map. And that was because of limited options for movement between the 2 lanes of the map. So obviously in the original version of River, this doesn't exist. So this is something that we brought in. So when we played it the very first time, the only option players had to move from this lane to that lane was this. And then this middle cover also was not here. So what that meant was if you came down to the river and then you decided that you wanted to go out of the river, you had this wide open ramp. Remember, this was not here. So a player could be hiding back here, like in any number of places, like around here, or like just sitting here waiting to Lancer you. And you really couldn't get up this ramp because it was just so difficult. Like people could just sort of wait for you, and like they couldn't flank you because that route was not there. So the next problem that we needed to solve was like, how do we get players moving? How can we get people to like be aggressive, take the initiative in fights, and it was just as simple as that block and those stairs. Like that, it was just as simple as that. Because now, if he's hiding on the right, I go left. If he's hiding on the left, I go right. And then just this cover was enough to give me enough versatility to make a play. So this was a really good change. And then obviously the stairs here gave people an extra option to flank people that were either camping the bottom of their ramp or camping the top of the enemy's ramp. So these two changes were very, very consequential to making the map sort of flow and give people options to move.
It's fun. It's funny how just these little things, like I think about like what we did on Reclaimed, just to open up the bullfight a little bit, right? Like one little small tweak or a little thing here can just really change the complexity of a map and just makes the engagements feel so much more satisfying to be an attacker and a defender, right? Because sometimes you have a good fight that if you're the defender, you're like, oh, I feel powerful here. And then, and you want it to feel like nobody has every map's going to have like strong points and weak points, but you want everyone to feel like that they're powerful if their skill warrants it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I think these changes were really helpful for that.
Yeah. And I'm not done. So.
Oh, sorry. Never mind.
we got a lot of problems that we had to solve on this map. So let's recap. So problem 1 was the spawns. So protecting the spawns with the high wall. So problem 2 is getting people between the two lanes. And then problem 3 was, can I even fight in the river without getting lancered, right? So like in the original river, the only cover was this. And so like this wasn't here, and then I'm gonna talk a little bit about something that people might not have noticed, but this wasn't here. So when people ran down into the river, well, remember they couldn't come down here, so they would come down here. You literally had no cover from the sniper because this is on like a slight angle. You can still get sniped. You can get sniped from that window. You can run up to this pillar, but then you could get lancered from there. That angle was also open in Gears of War 2. So problem number 3 was, can we literally just get people fighting in the river and not getting lancered in the back? Because people could not have fights down here. The first few iterations we had were a nightmare because you would run down here, front up for your boom shot fight, and then all of a sudden your head would pop off, or like some guy would just start lancering you like right here. That didn't even really need to go very far to spawn to get there. Like he didn't have to earn that position. You know, they just waddled up there out of spawn, right? So that was problem number 3. So how we solved that was, this cover came in. You can see this is on a very, very deliberate angle where if you take cover here, you're safe from that sniper. Like he can't get you. And if you aim around the right side of this, you're still safe from the sniper. You can't get sniped. You can launch the boom shot. You can launch this cover. You can start your engagement safe from the sniper, which was very, very important. And then this cover, very deliberately placed to be underneath this piece of geometry that we added. If you're on this piece of cover, the sniper cannot hit you. You're completely safe from the sniper. So if you run over here, you can. This is sort of like the cover number 2. Like you start here, you start your engagement, and then you can run here, and then you can continue your engagement. And then hopefully once you get here, like you've committed enough that you can finish your fight. But that was sort of like what we need to do. We need to sort of like separate some of the engagements from here to here in a way that still made the sniping intuitive. So the sniping, we didn't want to neuter the sniping. We didn't want to make it so that it didn't feel good. But the parts of it that felt bad were sort of like when you're just sort of shooting down here, right? Like that isn't really what we want. What people remember most about this map are like, the intense sniper fights between here and like all the different sophistication around that, like, coming down here and like, sniping people like on the bridge, either over here. But what we felt was something that was reasonable that we could remove was sort of like the sniping people coming out of spawn. So that's what we were very aggressive in fixing.
Well, I like that because you want there to be danger when you're exposed, so that when you're moving from a fight to a fight, you have to be cognizant of the sniper, but you don't want to be scared that when you're in a fight that like you're kind of going to get killed unnecessarily, unless you're taking a fight in a really dumb spot, obviously.
Yeah, well, the thing is that you want the areas where people can engage you to be intuitive, and that's one of the reasons why. You'll see on different maps where if there's like a crossing spot, it'll be like kind of framed up, right? Because you want people to be able to anticipate and expect where those crosses are coming from, so they can confidently take a fight. Like, what's a really bad moment is when, like, you run up here, for example, and you're like, okay, like, to win the fight, I need to kill this guy. But you don't have all the information. I don't know if there's a guy there. I don't know if there's a guy there. I don't know if there's a guy there. Like, you know, and I don't know if there's a guy there or a guy there. And, like, when you have, like, information overload where, like, there's so many different places where somebody can attack you from, you can't make intelligent choices, and you start to lose agency as a player. You're like, well, you know, I can't make an intelligent decision, so I'm just going to run. And then when you die, you blame the game and not, you know, your own choices, right? So we need, one of the most important things that we have to do as a level designer is to give the player the tools to collect the information they need to make the best choices, and that's what makes a great experience on a map.
Someone asked. Oh, Jay. Oh, hey, Jay. Do you know why this map has so much motion blur? Is that? Do you know? Do you have an answer to that?
Oh, sorry. What was that?
Do you know why this map has so much motion blur?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'd have to ask. I don't know, Jay.
It's probably like an artist question.
Yeah. No, I just wasn't sure if you knew.
Yeah. So you know, those were the big ones. Those were the top 3 problems we needed to solve. Anything that was not a problem, we left alone. So we want it to be as faithful as possible, where we didn't have to make changes. So, like, everything you remember, like, to the cars exploding, to, like, actually I want to talk about these cars. So like, we didn't have this car. Like this is like the car from Gears 2. Like, this is like the actual same car from Gears 2. And, like, originally it was just going to be like some truck, but then, like, one of the artists reached out and they're like, do you want this to be like the actual car from Gears 2? And I was like, yes, absolutely, make that car from Gears 2. So then they took this guy and, like, they got it up-resed, and I was really, really happy we got this, because, like, for me, like, just seeing, like, the profile of this vehicle is, like, part of the nostalgia of River. So the fact we got that in there was really awesome. Yeah, and this car explodes. So, like, anything we didn't have to touch, we didn't. We did make this a high cover, so people that are familiar with the original version of River, this was they'll know this was just a low cover. So we wanted to sort of add, like, a little spot where you could tuck in and be safe, safe from the sniper, because one of the things that we were seeing in our playtest was, because this cover is open to the sniper, there wasn't really a lot of places you could be safe. So you can see that kind of obscures that cover just a little bit, just enough that you feel a little safe there. And then, you know, if somebody's breathing down your neck here, you can still feel like you're advancing on the enemy. You can advance on the enemy and become safe from the sniper at the same time. So I can tuck in here, hold right hand a little bit, then make my way to this cover, and, you know, maybe, you know, get somebody over cover there. So that was also a nice little change. But other than that, we try to keep it the same. There were some little changes we made to the sniper perch, but in the end, we only turned them on for team deathmatch. Mm-hmm. Oh, there's a cover bug there. Fix that. So over here, there's actually a destructible cover, which is turned off in other modes. So in King of the Hill, for example, it won't appear, but in Team Deathmatch, there's actually a low wall here that you can take cover on. And the reason we did that was, one of the things that we found in playtesting was there was a behavior that was appearing where people would spawn, and then they would just, like, walk over here and then just do this. And they would just, like, harass the sniper. And we weren't seeing, like, that classic sniper gameplay that we're used to. So what we added this destructible cover just to add a little bit of stability to the first part of the sniper fight. But it's very, very weak, because one of the things that we realized very quickly was that the fact that a low wall was there was removing this angle and like this angle. So we didn't want that. So we made sure that it was destructible, and we gave it a very low amount of health. So for the first part of the round, you have some stability in that fight, but then it goes away very quickly, and then you have sort of that classic fight that you remember.
Cool. What were the things you tried on River before finally we answered that question? What change did TC want? Oh, yeah, and then the like why do we get to river now? I can answer that a little bit. Is I mean obviously you saw that we needed to do some work on it, and previously we talk about how much work it is to go and make a map, and even a map like this where it's basically being built from scratch requires a significant amount of work, and prior to when we deprioritized um, uh, the tiles, we went through, and this was just a way for us to sort of really be able to invest. Are you actually are you bug fixing right now?
Yeah, there's a broken cover in there. I'm just trying to figure out if it's actually in the game or not. I don't think it is.
So,
We're gonna fix a bug live on stream, everyone.
anyway, so yeah, so that's kind of how we got to it now. Well, this is, and then I'm not going to ask you any real Regency questions because you didn't work on Regency, and I know that you're not really comfortable about speaking for other people's work. I can say that it was designed largely by Garrett, who we've talked. Who's been on the stream before, and he, Foundation, Harbor, and a bunch of other maps that I'm sure I don't know, or I mean I know, but I don't know which ones he's done. So we're not going to have you speak to Regency in the depth that you're speaking to these two because, like I said, you don't want to misrepresent intention
Sure.
when you're not 100% aware. So, oh, what was that why was that subfolder still called Black Tusk? Just we have a lot like legacy things back when the studio was called Black Tusk. That's just that's all that is. So the upside of basically walking through and people seeing a few things like that. Okay, so there's a couple things that I'm going to answer because I saw them in the chat, and then I'm going to ask you some PvE stuff if that's okay with you,
Sure.
Michael. So the developers playlist tuning, as we mentioned today, we've made a few adjustments to it, mostly around the Townland and the Enforcer and the Lancer, and then just a few quality of life ones. We're going to roll it in the developers playlist is going to come back on Tuesday. We're going to